Well, it looks like it's that special time again, everyone. Another big DC comic event has come to an end, so I'm back here to answer the burning question that I'm sure is on everyone's mind: what just happened? I'm of course talking about Mark Waid's new one, Lazarus Planet, and oh man, was this a weird one when it came to pacing and release schedule. Now, as always, to properly explain the event that just happened, I need to actually start 2 stories ago. Because dagnabbit, that's just superhero comics for you. Context is king, and context usually means your story doesn't actually begin when it begins. Now, the seeds for Lazarus Planet actually got planted all the way back in the new Batman Superman World's Finest book, also from Mark Waid. If you missed that first arc, it was a real solid flashback story that focused on the earlier team-ups of young Batman and young Superman. It was also drawn by Dan Mora, so it was absolutely eye-poppingly beautiful from start to finish. In that story, a bunch of heroes and villains started acting weird, and that's because their minds had been taken over by a brand new villain called Devil Nezha, or maybe it's Nezha. I don't think we ever got 100% confirmation on how it's pronounced. Lord knows I started pronouncing it one way and then started pronouncing it the other way, and will probably change it several more times throughout the course of this video. I swear it's more Lund versus more Loon all over again. The first real problem with Lazarus Planet is a story we can probably trace back to Devil Nezha himself, mainly that his villainous motivations kept changing on a dime, and even when they were solidified, they were still pretty goddamn thin. And I get it, not every comic book villain can be three-dimensional and nuanced and layered and be an interesting reflection of the hero's own internal struggle. Sometimes bad guys are bad just because they're bad. And this guy not only looks like the devil, but has the word devil in his name. According to Devil Nezha, he wanted to enslave Earth's superpowered population to help him fight a much bigger threat. What's the threat? Well, they don't actually tell you in this story, but at the time when I was reading it, I know I certainly assumed that he was talking about the Great Darkness because, well, everything in DC was kind of referencing that at the time. And who knows, maybe that was the plan at some point, but all I know is by the end it was certainly not the case. That first Batman-Superman story arc ended with Devil Nezha getting locked away on an island that was eventually revealed to be Lazarus Island, home of the League of Lazarus and Mother Soul, aka Ra's al Ghul's mother and Damian Wayne's great-grandmother. Damian, you'll recall, had actually fought Mother Soul on Lazarus Island in the pages of that really good Joshua Williamson solo Robin book. Damian himself will, for better or worse, also end up becoming one of the central figures of the bigger Lazarus Planet story. Well, he does and he doesn't, but I'll get into that when I get into it. Now, the next story you gotta know to understand what's happening in Lazarus Planet is Mark Waid's next big series after that, Batman vs. Robin. Yes, that's right, Bruce and Damian are fighting again, everyone. In fact, if you've been paying attention, it's kind of all they've been doing over the last couple years. DC has had this really weird habit of keeping father and son at arm's lengths from each other for basically no reason at all, having them fight, then make up again, then fight 15 minutes later. Be it because of the death of Alfred at the hand of Bane at the end of the Tom King Batman run, be it because Damian was running a secret black site torture prison in the pages of Teen Titans, a fact of which they would later blame on the Reverse Flash influencing him, or more recently in the lead up to Dark Crisis when Damian thought Bruce wasn't doing enough to solve Ra's al Ghul's murder in the pages of Shadow War, which that one was the most annoying because they made up and then in the next page they were fighting again. Batman vs. Robin, for what it's worth, was a book that I thought actually started really strong, with Alfred seemingly returning back from the dead on Bruce's doorstep one stormy night. After that, Bruce gets attacked by a brainwashed Damian, as well as several other magical heroes who have all been sent on a quest by Devil Nezha to gather powerful arcane relics. Also, Nezha is working with Mother Soul at this point, which is really just kind of window dressing. She thinks that he might be the fabled beast of the Lazarus pits, but it doesn't really go anywhere, and also Damian has single-handedly managed to defeat Mother Soul like multiple times since her debut, so she really doesn't command any threat factor anymore. What exactly is Devil Nezha's plan this time? Well, he wants to channel all of Earth's magic powers through the Helmet of Fate, using fan-favorite character Black Alice as a conduit. This way, Devil Nezha hopes to defeat his most hated foe, who is revealed to actually be his own son, another new character called King Firebolt. If Lazarus Planet as a saga was ever approaching interesting, it would probably be right around here, mainly because Waid tries to contrast and juxtapose the dysfunctional family drama that is the Bat family, with Bruce and his son Damian always fighting each other, with the bloody history of Nezha and his own son. You see, Devil Nezha used to be human once upon a time, but after he died, his father, a famous famous Chinese warlord moved heaven and earth to resurrect his son with a magic green potion, which was of course eventually revealed to be Lazarus resin. Neza lived, but he got corrupted and turned into a monster who killed his own father in a rage. Now it seems like history is poised to repeat itself all over again. You know what, while we're on the topic of Lazarus resin, according to some of my comment section, this is like the third new origin they've given for the stuff in a row. Task Force Z, that zombie book, claimed ownership of it. Then there was a mad scientist in that Azrael book who gave his own account of how it all worked, which, considering the wildly different ways Lazarus resin affects people between different stories, either all the writers weren't talking to each other, or Lazarus resin is like Adam or the Force, and it just does whatever the hell the story needs it to at the moment. Now, in order to save his son and the world, Batman must go on a globe-trotting cross-country quest that sees him fight both hero and villain alike. Ultimately, it's revealed that the resurrected Alfred was in fact a fake sent to screw with him, but there was also just enough of the real Alfred in there so that he and Bruce could have a much-needed heart-to-heart with one another that ends with the butler saying that the only way Bruce will ever be able to save his son is if he can forgive him, and the only way he can forgive Damian is if Batman is willing to forgive himself for his death. I thought this was genuinely great stuff, and it's a crying shame that Lazarus Planet would basically never reach the heights of this moment ever again, and the real story hasn't even officially started yet. This is all still preamble. Ultimately, Batman does manage to save Damian from Devil Nez's mind control, but at that very moment, King Fireball makes the scene trying to kill his father. The supercharged Helmet of Fate gets plunged into the island's central Lazarus pit, causing a massive eruption. The eruption sends Lazarus resin up into the atmosphere, creating a series of super dangerous Lazarus storms that cover the whole planet, but really only America, because, you know, that's where the bulk of DC heroes live. You also might be asking yourself too, wait, the Helmet of Fate just kind of fell into a volcano? Did anyone bother to try and get it back? Yeah, Dreamer does in a backup story, but I don't think she actually succeeds. Also, how did Devil Neza get the Helmet of Fate? Did he kill Halid, the current holder of the helmet? No, he just used his powers to conveniently make him forget that he was a superhero. Yes, between this story and the JSA, it has not exactly been a great time to be Dr. Fate, any Dr. Fate for that matter. And with that, we finally come to the main Lazarus Planet story. Yes, that's right, I needed a whole 7 minutes of preamble to get you here. Which is actually kind of another problem with Lazarus Planet, and that is the bulk of the actual story, you know, the stuff that happens, doesn't even take place in Lazarus Planet itself. The whole event, I shit you not, is just 2 issues, an alpha and an omega, with like 5 different tie-in comics sandwiched between them, which I'll tell you right now are all anthology stories featuring 4 shorter pieces, all built around how the world reacts to the Lazarus storm. Some people get new powers, some people get mutated. Mostly people do nothing, because a lot of those stories were really goddamn uneventful or existed solely to help launch brand new heroes as part of the upcoming We Are Legends line. Now, I'm just a simple small town comic critic, and I'm no big highfalutin comic publisher, but if I wanted people to get interested in my brand new imprint and my brand new superheroes, I probably wouldn't have debuted them like this. And don't get me wrong, I got no problem with We Are Legends or these brand new characters. In fact, I hope all of them succeed, if only so I don't have to keep reading nearly as many Batman comics every year as I currently do. So yeah, we got brand new Lazarus superstorms that are affecting the whole globe, and at first things don't seem so bad. I actually like the idea of the superheroes fighting a natural disaster instead of just another supervillain that they gotta punch, though by the end King Fireball does decide that he wants to be the main bad guy here, even though he seemingly has less to gain than even his father did. Fireball also ends up looking a lot like his father too by the end of the story, which makes it really hard to keep track sometimes of who exactly I'm looking at. Hell, the Lazarus storms as a concept in and of themselves were pretty damn clever too. Basically, they mess with both the magical and technological sides of the DC universe, meaning for a minute there, Kryptonians were actually weak to sunlight. Mostly though, these ideas would end up being unrealized, which is a real shame. You're also probably thinking to yourself, well, if this is water from the Lazarus pit, then surely it must raise the dead, right? Yeah, well, it does, but only in like very small situations, like in the Wonder Woman anthology, and like nowhere else for some reason. This is also the first big DC event since Dark Crisis, and because it's not long after that, technically the Justice League doesn't exist as an entity anymore, meaning Damian has to take point and bring together a ragtag group of heroes, most of which being C and D-list heroes who almost never get the spotlight. Hell, this story has the rare distinction of having Power Girl and Supergirl being on the same team and in the same book, which, geez, I can't remember for the life of me when the last time that actually happened. Probably pre-New 52. Power Girl was also the star of one of the more interesting backup stories in the anthologies when she realizes, oh hey, you guys brought me back in Infinite Frontier but didn't explain who I was anymore. Long story short, she is actually the old Karen star. Lazarus Planet, if you couldn't tell, is also a story that suffered a lot in focus. There's really only 2 issues, as I mentioned before. The first part at least seems to be all about Damien trying to make amends for the evil he did while under mind control. But then out of the blue in the second issue, the focus changes and now it's all about Black Alice heroically trying to sacrifice herself to save the DC magical world because she blames herself for helping Devil Neza against her own will. Just a ton of guilt to go around for everyone in this story. And then I guess I should also talk about Monkey Prince, Jean Lewin Yang's newer hero who's been going for a little bit now. I guess he would probably be the 3rd most important character in this story and is given a position of real importance. The Monkey Prince book is actually the only one that got real deal official tie-ins to Lazarus Planet, and it mostly dealt with Monkey Prince's own familial connection to the Devil Neza and Chinese mysticism. I really like Jean Lewin Yang's work, and I guess if nothing else, it's nice that one of his series got a little push here because of this event. It's just a shame that literally nothing you learn by reading those Monkey Prince tie-ins actually matters to the rest of Lazarus Planet. Again, Lazarus Planet is just filled with so many odd choices in release and pacing. If you told me that Mark Waid just hammered this out over a couple weekends, I'd probably believe you. Also, crap, I totally forgot that at the end of that Batman vs. Robin book, Batman took a killing blow for Robin only to have part of his soul imprinted on Devil Neza, and vice versa. This means near the end of the first issue of Lazarus Planet, Batman becomes a devil monster out of the blue, but not only does no one seem actually concerned that that happened, but Devil Batman actually helps the good guys defeat King Firebull by the end of the story anyway. Again, it's all very weird. Oh, another thing I gotta bring up is how Lazarus Planet had maybe some of the most dishonest marketing I've seen in a comic book event in a long time, and seriously, this whole industry is built on the back of deceptive marketing, so if I noticed it, you know it has to be pretty goddamn egregious. You probably remember this image right here making the rounds in the lead up to the event. In fact, I chose it to be the thumbnail of the video you're watching right now. It features Batman wearing the helmet of fate, which he did not in Lazarus Planet, but near the tail end of Batman vs. Robin, which communicates to me that Waid himself didn't even know when that moment was coming, but he knew he was gonna write it at some point. We got Doomsday Martian Manhunter, which did actually appear for a second in one of those anthology stories. Hilariously, it wasn't even the Lazarus Reign that did that to him, and it never factored into anything else after. There's blue-suited Electric John Kent Superman, which John is in the main Lazarus Planet story, but he never gets that costume or those powers, either in the main Lazarus Planet or in the anthology story he gets. Renee Montoya is here as the Question, which is probably one of the most disappointing ones. I was actually really hoping to see her evolved in a big event story. That didn't happen. And the anthology story we did get starring her as the Question was easily one of the worst ones. They're also showing off Cyborg. He at least got to be in the main Lazarus Planet book, but like maybe for a couple pages and then is never seen or heard from again. But the weirdest has to be superpowered Mercy Graves. Yes, she does get an anthology story to herself. Yes, she does get new powers, but it never circles back to the rest of Lazarus Planet. Hell, in the new Superman book, they don't even address the fact that she still has powers. Ultimately, as you might have guessed, the day is saved thanks to Black Alice's sacrifice, and magic is returned to the heroes of the world. The Spectre locks King Firebull away in a tiny crystal prison. Now, that should really be the end of the story, right? In fact, it's where Lazarus Planet, the book itself, comes to an end, but it's not the ending. If you want the real finale to the story, you gotta read the last issue of Batman vs. Robin that just came out this week. Here, Damian Wayne gets himself kidnapped by the Devil Neza, who has now fully possessed Bruce's body in time for his motivation to change once again. Now he wants Damian to take him to his son so he can defeat him, even though his son was already defeated and locked away, and he literally has no reason to be doing any of this, but hey, if he didn't, then I guess there'd be no story, huh? Also, it's here too that Monkey Prince tells Damian that the longer Devil Neza is in Bruce's body, the stronger he'll become. No, don't ask me how a magical villain gets stronger in the body of non-magical Batman. He just does, okay? We need to raise the stakes somehow. The big final kicker is that maybe the only way to defeat Devil Neza once and for all is for Damian to kill his father, Batman, there, and continuing the dark shared history of family bloodshed and patricide, for another generation. Which, if you ask me, is a pretty damn weak attempt at drama, because we all know Damian isn't gonna kill Bruce, and DC sure as hell isn't gonna leave Batman dead for any amount of time, which means the whole finale just kinda marks time until its inevitable conclusion. The worst part is that there's really no more character growth for Damian to go on in this story. Him and Batman already reconciled and dealt with their issues in the lead up to Lazarus Planet, and this is just kind of another superficial thing for them to overcome. This story was basically already done before it started, but we still gotta trot along though for some reason. Even though the stakes are artificially inflated and no one really has any more growing or changing to do. So Batman doesn't die, obviously, whoever thought that could even be a possibility. Not by Damian's hand though, which feels like a weird sort of backpedaling. They say that Batman's life force was exhausted, which sure as hell sounds like death to me, but what do I know? Also, Zatanna and Enchantress and a bunch of the other magical characters show up with Devil Nez's body, and you think they're gonna do some sort of reverse exorcism, but like it doesn't work, so what was even the point of all these characters showing up? I mean, the answer is obvious: to pad out the story's runtime and to overcomplicate a story that really wasn't even that complicated to begin with. The way they managed to bring Batman back also leaves me scratching my head and wondering what the hell they were thinking in this one. You see, Damian takes over the Gotham Airways and puts out a call to all the citizens of Gotham City saying that if they've ever loved Batman before, they need to give him some of their energy. Again, it's all very anime and all very corny and all very from left field. It also feels very distinctively un-Mark Waid too. I get the sneaking suspicion that he wrote himself into a corner, had a deadline he absolutely had to make, and so he just kind of slapped together the most schmaltzy, cliched ending imaginable just so he could be done with the whole thing and wash his hands of it. And honestly, if I was him, I'd probably want to do the same. But hey, there you go. It looks like Bruce and Damian are finally friends again after all this time. Wow, that took a ridiculously long and winding road to get here, but I guess it's good we're finally at our destination, huh? Now maybe don't do it again in the next couple months. And don't say it could never happen, because now that we officially know Damian Wayne will be the Robin in the brand new DC slate of movies, there's a very good chance they could just artificially set him back to being a dickhead, as to better coincide with however he might act during that new movie. Which, God, I really hope they don't, but also I wouldn't put it past them. Also, hey, I think that's the reason the Brave and the Bold book is coming back, which is perfectly fine and good, but damn it, it's been way too long since we've had a book just called Batman and Robin. And so there you have it, everyone. That was Lazarus Planet, an event I'm already starting to forget, even though it only just ended this week. I think this story, if nothing else, stands as a pretty good testament to how important a good, solid ending is to your story, and how a bad ending can really undo much of the good work that came before it. As I stated before, the main problem with this story is that there really are no stakes. Batman and Robin work out all their issues long before the final pages. Devil Neza was an unremarkable villain, and his son somehow managed to be even more bland, which is worse. The tie-in anthologies themselves were also wildly inconsistent and didn't add anything to the main Lazarus Planet storyline. Oh sure, there were some bright spots here and there, but mainly that was for characters and stories that I'm pretty sure they were just gonna end up writing anyway. Yeah, the new Aquaman status quo is great. You probably could have just done that in an Aquaman book. I liked getting a nice little teaser for the upcoming Doom Patrol book, but I would also probably enjoy just reading the new Doom Patrol book. As far as those new We Are Legends heroes go, a lot of them feel like they were just left out to die. No one feels worse served than poor Circuit Breaker. They made a big deal about this being DC's first swing at having a positive, non-binary hero, and yet when that story's done, they literally go, oh hey, do you like Circuit Breaker? Well, you can read about them again in the new DC Pride anthology coming this summer. Yes, that's right, they launch a character in the winter and tell you to read them again in the summer. A lot of it too just kind of felt like checking event boxes. Oh hey, Ra's al Ghul is back from the dead now and he's probably gonna be a villain again. How about that? Oh, Billy Batson is back as Shazam now, just in time for the new Mark Waid Shazam book. Hey, there's a new guy who's part of Firestorm now, but you were never reading Firestorm books to begin with, and I don't think this is gonna make you start now. So yeah, what happened with Lazarus Planet? Well, it took a very long time to change very little if you asked me, and it came out way too close to the last big event that was Dark Crisis. Here's hoping now that Mark Waid is all freed up from DC head office's insatiable appetite for new events, maybe he can write something I actually do give a shit about, like that new Shazam book coming soon. And so everyone, that'll just about do it for me in another What Happened video. I hope you enjoyed it, and next time I promise we'll finally do Dark Web. I know you've been asking for it, and I've been putting it off, but it is the last big event that ended, and the current state of Spider-Man is a really hot topic in the realm of comic books and superheroes, and you know, it'll be your birthday and Christmas present. Never say that CapedJoel doesn't do anything for you.